Is it a movie that I would watch again? Probably not. It's one of those movies where it's like, okay, this was an interesting watch. I understand it for what it is. I appreciate it for what it is. And I think what I enjoyed the most about it was the contrasting aspects of it. Like, you had so many different parts about it that you could really speak on and take deeper if you wanted to. Whether it be diversity, whether it be women being overshadowed by men, whether it be somebody of mixed race still feeling like they feel the injustices of somebody who may be as melanated as me, as a black person, and still feel uncomfortable around certain individuals, or whether it's feeling like you don't deserve to have success because of how society has portrayed a certain group of people in the past. There's so many aspects of it that you could look at, but that's only if you want to take it deeper. So yeah, I thought it was interesting. I thought it was very interesting. Okay, so boom, I tapped into this little movie earlier called The American Society of Magical Negroes, and it was interesting. Like, I thought it had a lot of contrasting parts in it, which is what I found the most interesting. And I feel like once you take like your personal biases, or like your personal bias out of certain movies that you don't think you would want to tap into, at least for me personally, it's actually enjoyable. And I feel like that's what I did with this one, because I read what it was about, and basically it's about a society of black people who live to make white people feel comfortable, you know? And I'll probably give a few spoilers. It is what it is. But in the beginning, you have an artist, and you can kind of tell, you know, he's like awkward. I wouldn't, maybe you could say insecure, but he's an artist, and he's showing off his like yarn or whatever it is, and you can tell like he's just lacking that confidence. And so after that whole ordeal, there's a situation where he's at the ATM, and there's a young lady there, and she tries to say she can't find her card, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, he holds her purse, and then she tries to start accusing him of stealing from her. And me personally, obviously, I'm going to say it looked like a setup. You know what I'm saying? From the watcher, or from the viewer, however you want to say it, honey, the person watching the movie, right? It looks like a setup. And then that's when you see the guy from the secret society pop up and uses the magic, which is essentially just making white people feel comfortable. He uses that magic to get the artist out of the situation. And yeah, that's that. And so you just see how things unfold, and the artist gets initiated into the society and learns a bit more. And basically in the society, I'm laughing because one of the comments, not the comments, what am I saying? The guy who helps him get initiated into the society, he makes a comment about white people, which I thought was funny. I think it was something like, what's the most dangerous species on Earth? And so the artist said a shark. And I probably shouldn't have laughed, but he said, no, it's white people. And so I was like, oh God. And so, anywho, basically, in a society, you're not allowed to say what's on your mind when white people make you uncomfortable. You're not allowed to speak your mind. You're not allowed to speak on injustices. You're basically not allowed to speak up for yourself. And I think to a certain extent, no matter who you are, depending on what room you're in, you have to do that anyway. You know what I'm saying? But I also thought it was interesting because the artist has a white mother. Like, and this is something that he says in the movie. And so he tries to make it seem like, oh, I'm comfortable around white people. My mother is white, blah, blah, blah. I don't live in fear. And I think sometimes those are the lies that we tell ourselves, just taking it away from his own personal experience. Sometimes we tell ourselves lies as far as who we think we are, how we think we're living, when in reality we're living the complete opposite. And I think that just goes along with finding out who you are in society and becoming an individual, and that's just until you truly come into yourself, if you ever do that. Because I know there's some people who are like probably 50, 60, and they still are not living as their true selves, and then just depending on where you are, you have to kind of conform. I don't care who you are and I don't care what you say. Sometimes you have to conform into these molds of who you're not, who you aren't to the core. You know what I'm saying? So it was interesting. And basically, if you do speak up for yourself, or if you do say something against a white person, or you tell somebody off, or you tell them about themselves, and you may be absolutely correct, because I think we've all, especially me as a natural born black woman who's also heterosexual, I have certainly been in situations where I've wanted to say things, and it's like you have to walk on eggshells, because if you say something wrong, or if you say it this way, you never know. You know what I'm saying? There are people in this world where if you make them feel uncomfortable, they're going to try to have you living in fear, And so it's interesting. And I could go into that way deeper, but I'm just going to keep it about the movie. So yeah, the society gets him on, with his first client at some little tech company. It looked like a tech company to me. It could have been like design or whatever. Me personally, I'm a healthcare, allied health, pharmacy type of girl. That's what I know. I don't know anything about tech. Not like that. And so his client is this white coworker, and he is supposed to make him feel comfortable and whatever. And then there's this other beautiful soul, and I believe her name is Lizzie, and you see the artist kind of start to fall for her. And I think that's where the contrast starts to happen, which is what I found interesting, because she's of a completely different culture. Like, she's not black. And so you have an artist who is of mixed race, right? Who also feels like he's living the injustices as a black man, right? But then you also see him fall for a young lady who is a beautiful soul, who is of a completely different race. She's not black, she's not melanated, she's just a completely different race. And I don't want to say what she is because I don't want to be wrong, but I think if you watch the movie, you'll understand what I'm saying. Or even if you watch the trailer, because it's on Prime Video. But or that's where I watched it, on Prime. And so you see him go through that, and by the end of the movie, he does get kicked out of the society because he tells his co-worker off, and he tells his co-worker that, certain things that he said and certain things that he's done makes him feel uncomfortable. And then he falls for the young lady Lizzie, because you can see, like, she does have a beautiful soul, like, and she goes through her own, like, situation where something unfair happens to her. Now, she's not black or anything, but you see how she goes through her own little, I guess, like, unfair situation at the workplace. And it just also kind of showed how, like, we live in such a male chauvinistic society as well. So not only are we living in a white man's world to a certain extent, we're also living in a male chauvinistic society as well, especially in the Western world. And I don't know, it was interesting. But yeah, the artist, he gets kicked out of the society, but he does fall in love with the young lady, and you see at the end she has, honestly, I didn't pay attention to it too much at the end, but it was something on her door where she had, it was like a society of supportive wives, and I'm not sure if it's because of because, you know, at the end the company wants to start getting into, you know, being more diverse or whatever the case may be, which I found so interesting because the artist himself, he's not even really melanated. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, he's still of a mixed race. Like, he's still mixed. But it's interesting how certain people will see that as diverse. But if you have someone like me, and obviously we've become more progressive, I think, in the Western world. It's not perfect, nothing is, but someone like me who has like 4C XYZ hair, I'm a bit more melanated. Like, both of my parents are black, both of my parents, well, I'm not going to get into my history, but essentially what I'm trying to say is, I know what it feels like to make people uncomfortable, but I also know what it feels like to be betrayed by people that look just like me, especially black women. Do you understand what I'm saying? And that's something that I've had to heal from. It's not something that it's like, oh my God. Ugh. It's just one of those things where I've been in situations where people who don't look like me or people from different cultures have been more accepting of me. And I think that's where I took my personal bias away from the movie and understood why he fell in love with another culture. But at the same time, for me personally, I've never dated anyone who's not black. You know what I'm saying? I've looked at other people and been like, ooh, he's cute, like, he's fine. You know what I'm saying? But I've never had that, like, deep-seated feeling of, oh my God, like, I want to marry you or I want to fall in love with you. And that's not to say that I want to say that I would be open-minded about it, but I feel like that would be a lie to myself. But, you know, you never know. Like, I've always been like, I want a very, very melanated family, but you never know. You never really know. Because like I said in my other video about the fear of being seen, somebody asked me that question and I stood my ground on it, and I don't know, things change. But I just feel like sometimes as a black person in society who lives in such a beautiful world, a very progressive world, right? You still deal with certain things, and I just feel like if I were to meet someone who, and I don't even mean to make this personal, but this is a segue, that's what I do. I just feel like somebody who is respectful and whatever the case may be, because I don't like that. People don't like the word ratchet, ghetto, whoop-de-woo, whatever. It depends on how you use it. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how to say it. But essentially what I'm trying to say is, if I were to find somebody who's like respectful and is not into all of that struggling, even if we're not where we want to be in life, we're both progressing towards something. That's what matters. You know what I'm saying? Because you can get in all these type of toxic situations and blah, blah, blah. But back to the movie. I don't know. I love segueing. Back to the movie. I thought it was interesting. Is it a movie that I would watch again? Probably not. It's not one of those movies like Get Out where I could watch it like over and over and still be like, yo, like this is timeless. It's just one of those movies, and that's just me personally. It's one of those movies where it's like, okay, this was an interesting watch. I understand it for what it is. I appreciate it for what it is. And I think what I enjoyed the most about it was the contrasting aspects of it. Like you had so many different parts about it that you could really speak on and take deeper if you wanted to. Whether it be diversity, whether it be women being overshadowed by men, whether it be somebody of mixed race still feeling like they feel the injustices of somebody who may be as melanated as me as a black person, and still feel uncomfortable around certain individuals, or whether it's feeling like you don't deserve to have success because of how society has portrayed a certain group of people in the past. There's so many aspects of it that you could look at, but that's only if you want to take it deeper. So, yeah, I thought it was interesting. I thought it was very interesting. Anywho, and this is only one perspective. But yeah, it's not my favorite movie. It's not, like I said, it was one of those movies where I was like, I don't know if I'm going to watch this, but I might as well tap in and see what it's about.